Everyone deserves to have a voice and to leave a mark on the world. Every voice and contribution counts. Everyone can make an impact, and everyone's story deserves to be told. So #Impact helps people share their stories in an intimate, authentic way so they can be confident, stand out, and inspire positive change in the world. I am Regina Larco, and you are listening to #Impact, a podcast about stuff that matters. Around a year ago, we started to do something really special. We invited our #Impact Club members to join us for intimate virtual coffee breaks to connect and recharge. And I don't know if you've just did you just hear my little kid screaming in the background? Well, we all sometimes need a place and space just for ourselves, don't we? And #Impact Club is a nourishing place where we can share about our big wins, but also our big failures on our own journeys. I'd love to invite you in as well, and you can join us at #impact.com/club. Today, you get to witness the very first live podcast recording we did within #Impact Club with Dr. Watson Jordan. We talked about our why and resilience, and most importantly, we honored the moments that we shared with our community, and you will hear their voices too. Thank you so much for joining us that day, Watson, Fashila, Christina, Roseanne, Rika, Sissy, Sarah, and Rainbow. Without further ado, I just want everyone to hear your voice, Watson. Welcome to this very first live recording at #Impact Club.
Thank you so much, Regina. This is the highlight of my week, is kind of getting to do something fun with you. And, I have a super soft spot in my heart for Hong Kong. So I'm sending out a lot of care and support and attention for all my friends in Hong Kong. And I guess I would start with, at the Resilience Initiative, we have a plan. It's called the 5-3-1 plan. And it's super easy. So when times are tough, it's just good to know who are the 5 people in your inner circle. And I think when times are tough, connect with them on a regular basis, and what are 3 communities that you belong to? And obviously this is one. So everybody gets a gold star for showing up for each other, just to not be isolated and to be a part of. It's a powerful thing. And the pandemic has really impacted in a negative way the benefits we get from community. And it's good to have a core belief. And our joke is you can have more than one, but you can't have 1,000. So it's just a North Star. So those are the 3 things we talk about a lot. And if it's a tough time in Hong Kong, you get a gold star for coming today and being a part of a community and a group, because it's easier when we're traveling with people. The other thing that I do, just because I want to get this out of the way and talk about the podcast, I help people in teams discover their why. So I do it for individuals and for couples and for teams. And I started doing that this fall. In part, it's easy enough to kind of go, this is our 5-3-1 plan, and we have some exercises and different things that we can do. But usually people know what to do, but they have a hard time actually doing it. And if you know your why and your zone of genius, it's easier to act in ways that are sustainable and bring out the best in you. So my example, I haven't gotten to help Regina discover her why, but she's a really good example of someone who's living in her zone of genius. You can tell she loves what she does because she's super excited. And I like how she's excited about all the parts. She's excited about the file management and the graphics making and the quality of the audio and finding ways to promote so seldom herself, but so often her guests and the things that they're passionate about. So it's this kind of giant critical mass storm of kind of integrity and love and enthusiasm. And you couldn't hide it, which I just think is so fantastic. And I met Regina. I was doing some work with Diana Wu David, who is in Hong Kong. She has a future-proof course, and she is a friend. And I was working on a couple of things. This was before the pandemic. And we met as a group. And I said, I'm thinking about doing a podcast because I like audio. I learn that way. It's very peaceful for me. It fits with my intellectual or lack of intellectual makeup. But audio is, I listen to music and podcasts, and I've grown more comfortable with my voice, but I like speaking. So when I asked the people in my group, I said, anybody know anybody who could help me do a podcast? And there were 8 people in the group, and they all went, "Oh, Regina Larco." So I went, "Really?" And they were like, "Oh yeah." So I think I got in touch with you kind of the regular way on your website and said, "This is what I'm trying to do."
On my newsletter. I have to bring that up. I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but like 2 years ago, when I launched the online course, I started this newsletter, right? Because that's what you do. You have a newsletter and then you share about what great things you do. You're just sending it out and you're hoping someone will actually open it. And you actually opened it, but you came on that newsletter definitely through the recommendations of the Future Proof community. Shout out to Diana Wu David. She's amazing. Actually coming up on #Impact. We're definitely going to bring her in. And I remember that because you actually were the person that grabbed my special offer through my newsletter. And I'm like, oh my God, did someone actually buy it? And the first thing I did, like, who is this? Who is this? And I remember going on your website, checking. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh my God, this guy wants to learn from me. He's like so experienced and he does all these amazing things. And I think that was what really excited me, was that I always I was hoping to attract people that are attracted to what I do and the values I stand for at #Impact. And then when I saw what you were doing with the Resilience Initiative, I was just so pleased that I would be there with you on this journey, launching your podcast. And then you did.
It was perfect because I got it in my head. I wanted to do a podcast, and this was before the pandemic. So I mapped out this. I had the idea to ask, I wasn't going to ask other resilience experts about resilience, but I wanted to ask other areas. So ask a chemist what the chemistry world thought resilience was, to ask a biology person, to ask, I live in Asheville, North Carolina, so far away, but there's a lot of breweries here. So people making beer. So I thought I could go to and resilience is a quality. You want it to retain its original intent from when it's brewed to when someone has it. So I had all these ideas of different ways to look at it that I thought were very clever. and so importantly, I thought would be fun to do.
Mm.
So but then the pandemic came, and one of the things I've learned, I can follow directions. So I could probably figure out how to do a podcast on my own, but it might take 2 years and it would be bad. So I just literally went straight down Regina's list, kind of one a day. I was really kind of motivated. And so I went, and I remember every time I do it, I go, oh, thank God, Regina. Because one of the lessons in there was how to clean up your audio by using Auphonic.
Mm.
It's so great. It's so great. I never would have found that. So, but when the pandemic came, I went, well, I need to do something more significant than this. So I just started interviewing on the podcast people from around the world to find out what they were doing in the pandemic. So my first one was my friend Shamali, who lives in Hong Kong, but she lives out in the country. There's a big, giant white statue near where she lives, like a giant one.
Buddha, the big Buddha?
The big Buddha.
Yeah.
She lives out there. So she was my first interview. And we talked because in the United States, people never wear masks. Then, I mean,
this was,
and in Asia, it was very commonplace. Yeah. So I went, why do you wear masks? So we talked about it. Well, you wear a mask because you want to protect yourself from others. And you wear a mask because you want to protect others from you. And she mentioned, and I thought she would be such a good guest because I'm just her biggest fan. She said, and it's also a courtesy to wear a mask when other people are wearing a mask so that everyone's comfortable. And I understand in Hong Kong, it's not optional. So that was how I started. So I just went around the world and called friends and talked to them. And, I made, so many, I was motivated. So I did them, but I made a lot of blunders.
And I'm starting sharing. I'm sharing here for all of you that get the live experience. You get the extra experience here. So really, there's so much in there in this podcast. I'm just so pleased to see how you have kept going with it as well, because there is this, and I'm scrolling down the episodes of your. Now you're in season 3, but there's so much in there. Season 2, season 2, I really loved. Also, you launched a book that was last year, right?
And so then they are. See, these are the ones from the first season. So there's the one.
This Shamali, one that you just shared,
and then Robin, and then Mumbai, my friend Sandhya. So, and these are all places that had a lot more experience with this pandemic than we had in the States. So I thought, well, that would be interesting to share.
Right. Yeah. What I want to kind of draw on as well, and then encourage everyone actually to also share their thoughts on resilience and share a win that they want to share with all of us, or a fail, whatever it is, that I want to point our community towards is what you're doing with Y.os. And actually, I want to encourage them to maybe listen to one of your latest episodes with about the Zone of Genius, where you are talking with one of your collaborators at the Y Institute. So you get all the insights on what you are doing over there. Yeah, teaser. Please go listen to that episode on #resilience.
Yes, you can double my listeners.
Yes. And I will share that link with you afterwards as well, so that you can find it easily, or in the link below if you're now listening to the replay. But a question as I was listening to your conversation about the why, what I wanted to challenge you maybe to do for us here today is, how does your why, how, and what fit in with what you are doing within your podcast?
Great, glad you asked. So I'll forget this if I don't say it. If anybody in this group wants to discover their why, I gave a 25% discount to everybody in the Future Proof group. So I'd be happy to do that. So just let me know.
Thank you. Yeah.
So my why in our system, there are 9 whys, is to find a better way and to share it. And my how is to make sense. And my what is to add to a community. So, and I don't have the full statement in front of me. But if you just look at my example about the podcast, I wanted to find a better way of doing things. So I interviewed people around the world and I shared it with people in the United States through my podcast. So, and that made sense to me because we had our experience base is 0. So, and it was part of being something bigger than myself. So that was right in my little zone of genius. I mean, it just stacked up. I want to find a better way and share it. It needs to make sense and it needs to contribute to the greater good. So those things were all just right there. So and when that happens, it's easy to do the work because it's fun. I kind of go, oh, I like to find a better way. That I can't. In fact, it's a problem because I noticed a better way for Regina to do her thing and I shared it, and not everybody's open to every single idea someone has about how things can be improved. So I've learned to keep that to myself sometimes. And there's a funny maxim. It's never answer a question that no one has asked. So sometimes that's good, but I can just keep that to myself, especially in my marriage. I'll notice a better way that my wife might do something and I can just keep that to myself.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Don't go there.
Yeah.
But it's all, I want to send everyone to that episode because it was really very...
And Dan does a nice job talking through all the 9 whys and kind of going,
yes.
How they, but it's...
And you can't help but wonder, what is mine? As he is talking through them, you start to reflect. And, even you mentioned, thank you. It's so kind for you to say that you can tell that that I found my zone, that I'm in the zone. I feel that too, but it's still so, I think it's very, I love reflecting on myself because it helps me also be more observing about what drives me. But then at the same time, I want to understand that for other people as well. What brings you here today? Thank you for all of you showing up here and listening to Watson. And I hope this is just an invitation and the start of a relationship that you can have with Watson, because now you can listen to his podcast as well and get to know him better and the topics that he discusses around resilience. We just had a few, 20 minutes now to talk about this, but there's so much for us to reflect on what you share with your guests, what I really appreciate.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to, because I want to get to the part where everyone gets to talk, because you do find that the worst possible podcast is one where I talk the whole time and I have a guest. Now, sometimes I'll do a self-pod where I'll just talk. Yeah. But if you have a guest, the fun is kind of them talking. But the thing I wanted just to mention, I get a lot of benefit out of doing the podcast. And one of them is I get to meet new people. And I like interviewing them and I like that learning process. So I steer the podcast towards areas of interest I have. Mm-hmm. So season 3, I help people discover their why, and I'm part of a community of why coaches. So I went, well, I'm going to meet some people and I'm going to learn some things. So I said, I'm going to interview a coach for each of the 9 whys, and Dan, who works at the Why Institute, and Gary, who founded it, at the end. So I thought that would be a fun season, and I would learn a lot. I would meet a lot of people. So it's nice if more people listen, but I've really found that there are lots of benefits to having a podcast that are important to me. So, and it's learning and meeting people and networking. And you find Regina's great at this, finding people to support that being on the podcast can be a positive for them. So I thought about, there are lots of benefits besides kind of just raw listeners. So
yeah,
there.
So where should we find your podcast? This is for you to plug for all the listeners listening to the replay.
So Regina suggested that Anchor was a good choice. So I make it at Anchor. The easiest way to find it is to go to my website, which is #resilience.com. I just copied from Regina.
That was so sweet, as well.
But it's on all the major, you can see on the screen. So it's on Spotify. It's on, I think, every one. So, but that's the website. And then the podcast piece is right there. But if you go to like Apple or Spotify, if you put in my name and #resilience, it'll come up. Sometimes you have to look a bit because it's not the biggest podcast that they have today.
That's what I also noticed. When you're looking for a specific podcast, don't just look for the name, look for the podcast name, but also for the host name. That will help you find it. So if you put in #resilience with the hashtag, just like #impact, but then also add Watson Jordan, then you will find it for sure. Or let's give a shout out also to our amazing podcaster, Branding for Impact, Roseanne Ling. Roseanne, do you want to say wave to us all? So if you're looking for her podcast, Branding for Impact, also look for her name, Roseanne Ling, and you will find beautiful branding, impactful branding. Watson, are you listening to Branding for Impact yet? You will love this one.
Not yet.
Yeah. So, well, over to you. Well, first of all, thank you, Watson, for sharing about your journey. And I just love listening to you. It makes me feel quite calm, to be honest.
But literally,
I needed this today.
I did exactly. Today. I just went straight down all the lessons.
Oh, I'm so glad.
You were always nice to help. So I'd love to hear from the people who are here. I just love to hear what they want to have on their podcast.
Yeah.
And I'd really love to quit talking.
Yeah. So, well, thank you, Watson. We have a few podcasters in the house, but we also have people that are listeners of the #Impact podcast who come into this from a listener's perspective. So I guess what I always love to invite everyone to do here, feel free if you have any questions for Watson to share that. But this space is also for you to share about yourself and a win that you want to celebrate, or something you have learned on your resilience journey. It can be anything, because what I want you just to do is to unmute yourself and use your beautiful voices so we can all hear them. Yeah. Am I gonna call out people, or who wants to go first? Well, maybe I can bring up Fashila, because Fashila, she has been an amazing collaborator for one of our episodes with Justice Center. What we did there was Fashila was listening in to the conversation I had as a silent listener. She got to be what I usually don't do, but I allowed Fashila to do it because she was also writing up an article for Honeycombers at that time for and about Justice Center. So that was a beautiful collaboration. And Fashila is so talented, such a talented writer, so good with words and with observing. And well, I was lucky that she also sat down for a conversation with me a few months ago. And what you picked up on during that conversation was beautiful as well. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here today. Do you want to share your voice? Do you have any comments? Anything you want to celebrate? What do you want to say to Watson? What do you want to know?
Thanks for the little introduction, Regina. Thank you for hosting this. And, this is the first time I'm joining one of your #Impact Club meetings. And I'm sorry for not making it earlier. Wish I did. And thank you, Jordan, for sharing about the Resilience Initiative and the 5-3-1 rule. And I just wanted to know a little bit about why resilience in particular. Would you say this quality overpowers other human qualities? What drove you to explore more about resilience?
What a great question. And it's a fun story that I'll try to not take a half an hour to tell. As I mentioned, I was working with Diana Wu David in her Future Proof course. And I had was involved in various different things in my community. And I think to most people, it would, if all these projects were on my desk, they would go, man, that is a mess. But Diana is so observant and she's curious about things. And so she kind of picked away at me for a minute. She goes, all these have to do with resilience. And the minute I heard that, I went, that's right. And so the name came to me that second, the Resilience Initiative. And I liked it because it sounds substantial, but it's also not forever. So an initiative isn't kind of for infinity. It's discrete. So I went, I like everything about that. And then I went, oh, and this will fit just fine. And I'll make a podcast and I'll have an exec. And it just all came down kind of at one shot. So it was very much finding something that an umbrella that the things I was doing could fit under neatly. And so, but it's been really fun to learn more about what different people think it is. And, there are a million different opinions. In the United States, people like to say, yes, when you get knocked down, you stand back up and you're resilient. And I'm much more, I think resilience means we're living a life that's sustainable. So for me, that's not taking things too seriously and getting too low, but not taking myself too seriously and getting too high. So kind of finding a way to keep those waves in a sustainable way. But that's just, no one who's famous shares that opinion, but it makes sense to me.
Great. Thank you.
What does it mean to you?
Ooh, good question. Is that to Fashila?
It can be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, this one time, when I was interviewing Regina, one of the questions I asked her was, how do you stay positive through everything? And she told me that she would think back about her childhood and the love that her family gave her. And she still wants to preserve that positive thinking. And that no one ever said that. People will just be like, yeah, I don't want to break my spirit. I want to stay positive even when things get tough. But nobody says they want to preserve the inner child. And I think that's a very different way of thinking. And so, children, you look at children, sometimes you're jealous of how happy-go-lucky they are. And, you never think that you want to preserve that side of you. And so that was one answer that Regina gave that really stuck with me. And I think resilience can kind of resonate with that. Resilience is not just going on with your life and thinking like, I can get through this, but also trying to preserve this side of you that was always positive. And, thinking like that can get you ahead and during tough times like what we're facing these days. And, there's so much to resilience, and it's definitely like a power quality that we all have. And it takes time for us to practice that. Like there are obviously times that we break down, and I think it's totally okay to break down, because breaking down also shows that you're resilient. And, like there's just so many components to it. There's the ups and downs and everything. And it's definitely like a quality that we all possess and we practice, but we don't realize we do.
That was great.
Oh my God, I have like a tear in my eye, because Fazila, you don't even know how much I needed to hear this today. Of all days, I think, because sometimes we do forget, sometimes we give really smart answers to questions, and then the next press conference happens of weird announcements, and I like forget. Oh, that was a good reminder. Thank you, Fazila.
No problem.
Oh my. What about you? Well, Christina, can I call you out, because we just connected yesterday after so many years?
Yeah.
And it means a lot to me that you make time to be here today. So Christina is is running many impactful initiatives, also among others with common purpose. And working on leadership development. And I guess resilience is something that must come up a lot as well when you're working with leaders we all want to be leaders, right? We all want to tap into that, being there for others and leading the way. But how do you access that for yourself?
Well, I could talk about resilience from a few different angles. In my work, I work as a coach, I work as a facilitator, and in a lot of different capacities. I think that resilience is something that I encourage everybody to, through my own personal story that I just was part of a compilation that's published on Amazon in December, thinking about resilience not only in the doing for ourselves, but also in the learning that we can get out of it. I went through a personal tragedy many years ago, and through that experience of many months, I eventually figured out what kind of direction that I wanted to choose in life. It was a very unconventional career path, but is one that is I can't imagine my life not having. And so I think in the spirit of resilience and keeping the tone of the conversation upbeat and positive, for me, whether it's work or the personal side of resilience, whether it's, me encouraging people to be resilient over, friends and family back home, or even just looking out my window while I'm seeing hazmat suits walking by, just trying to make sure that we're reflecting upon resilience as an opportunity for learning and understanding, because sometimes we can surprise ourselves with how strong we can really be. And I think that that's the tone that I captured in my story that I put out, that of course we can take time to absorb our situation. We need to understand the reality, how to cope, and go through all of those emotional parts. But I think it's also important to take note of the learning and how we can become empowered through resilience. So I don't know if that's answering any questions, but that's pretty much what I have to say in terms of a comment.
It makes me want to read the publication. Where can we find that? Can you share the link with me as well, I can reshare it after? But tell us, what's it called?
Voice, Volume 3.
Yes.
So actually it was started, this is the fourth version just came out. So basically it's a publication that puts out, it's put together amongst 20 women. And it's done by a publisher that used to be in Hong Kong, but now is Singaporean based. And it's fantastic. And it's a really great community.
Hashtag voice. Is it hashtag voice, right?
Hashtag my voice.
My voice. Hashtag my voice.
Yes. And the edition that I was part of is all about self-discovery and resilience.
Oh, that's amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Sarah, Roseanne, who am I? I'm calling everyone out who has their video on. So Rainbow, if you hear us and you also want to drop in, I don't know if you're just listening. I don't want to call you out, but if you have the video on, we had a beautiful mastermind session yesterday. Roseanne was there. Sarah was there. We just wrapped up our 6-month podcasting mastermind. This is something, Watson, I would love to see you in one of those as well. So this is something that has came out of my work with the online course that I put together a bunch of people that were running through the course at the same time and then work with them along the way. And we have like monthly meetups and share about how everything is going. Roseanne launched her podcast during that time. Sarah has started recording her first episodes. We're excited about her launch. Do you want to put it? Do you want to say it? Put it on the record, Sarah. When is it going to launch? Do you want to make it official?
And Sarah, I have to say, I like the art in your background.
Love it too. Yeah.
Well, thank you. It's my son painting. We have a few still artworks from the portfolio last year school year, so they are everywhere. So yes, my it's official since I told you yesterday, last night, 21st of March, taking advantage of that meaningful date. I'm committed to air the first episode of Reinventions in Between. It's a podcast about reinvention and change of life. And I'm very passionate about this topic. Of course, it comes from a personal background. I have having reinvented myself throughout the past 16 years living abroad. And I bring this experience as well, building up on the resilience topic. I wanted to bring my perspective. I didn't really know much about resilience since not knowing the meaning or how impactful was for everyone since resilience came up paired with the pandemic world, right? But in the global mobility expat world or migrant world, resilience is something like a stamp on the passport. It's something that all people that go through this change, they learn and they acquire in a natural way without knowing that they are going through resilience processes because they have to adapt so many times. And for me, I was thinking back, moving in every 2 years in the past 16 years of my life, being a couple and then becoming a family and then bringing around two kids as well and trying to cope with all these changes. There's a huge amount of people who go through resilience throughout their life without even knowing. And that's, I think it's a bit weird, interesting, useful. There are many adjectives that they come up to my mind talking about this topic. That nowadays everyone is suddenly recognizing that resilience is something important we have to look for, and also it highlights strengths. And I was looking on the meaning of the word, like the other day, I told you about the origin of promotion. We were talking about, and so it's funny that from a different meaning, resilience is the capacity of absorbing an impact or a shock. Mm. And I really like this definition that makes us feel strong. I like to visualize. So for me, this image, this metaphor is really powerful and strengthening. At least I like it this way.
I like it too.
And I'm very curious to go and listen to your podcast.
Oh,
Yeah.
We start very soon. It will be in the collection that I have when I drive to go pick up the kids in school.
that's flattering, and it's family friendly. So,
Right.
Roseanne, I want to hear your beautiful voice as well. What are your thoughts? What comes up? I want to leave this open to you. Share whatever you like.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. So insightful to hear everyone's view on the word resilience. And Jordan, I also can't wait to listen to your podcast. For me, I think resilience has a lot to do with adaptability and acceptance. In a way, radical acceptance. And I really resonate with what you mentioned, Jordan, earlier about being so clear about your why and that really driving your resilience. Because I think that's how I kind of see, looking back at my past 10 years in my career, how I got to where I am today, despite maybe a lot of people saying no, or a lot of things not going to plan. I was very clear all the time about my why and why I want to keep pursuing this path. And I think when you're so clear about your why, the what and the how almost doesn't really matter anymore, because you could plan all you want, but the universe would always have different plans for you, as we know from the pandemic. But I think when you're so clear about your why, it almost doesn't matter anymore. You'll find another way. If this way doesn't work, you'll find another way, because you're so clear about why you're doing this. So yeah, that's my take. I think it's got a lot to do with adaptability, going with the flow, but going with the flow, being able to go with the flow because you're not attached to the how or the what, because you're so clear about your why. I don't know if that makes sense.
Clarity is a great asset, so when we're clear about things, about our why, you're exactly right that it's very powerful. And it changes things from obstacles to challenges to I'll just find another way. That's super insightful. What did you call that? Radical acceptance.
Yes, I love that as well.
That's
Radical
a great phrase.
acceptance, and also that what Sarah said about absorbing. It's so nice to.
That's a great visual
to get these. And I know you love that as well, Sarah. You're all about co-creating, right? How we are here now, found ourselves in this time and space to kind of find some new interpretations for ourselves as well, what it can mean to us, and how we can radically accept, coined by Tara Brach. Am I saying this correctly?
Yeah. So
Roseanne just shared that.
She's a meditation mindfulness coach. And I read her book on radical acceptance, and it really changed my perspective on a lot of things, how we face obstacles, challenges, and it's like a surrendering, let's say, to the universe, and really trusting that things happen for us and not just to us. Yeah, I highly recommend to read the book. And also, she's also on Insight Timer. If anyone here does meditation, she's a really great coach.
Insight Timers. Wow.
Yeah, it's an app where you have access to hundreds of different coaches from around the world, and you can enroll on their courses to start your journey on meditation or to build on it.
So many good ideas.
Oh, I'm so glad I just tried this out. Watson, and I'm so glad you were so brave to just jump on it and say like, yeah, sure, I'm going to do that.
You know,
And
I would just say yes
like
to anything you asked me to do. I would go, okay, that's how.
Yeah.
I couldn't be any safer. You know, you kind of go, because I think everybody that knows you goes, I love Regina. So I do.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you all so much for joining this very first live recording of Hashtag Impact Club. I want to remind you that all of you at Hashtag Impact Club are also very welcome to join our private Hashtag Impact Club LinkedIn community, where I'm also sharing updates, but everyone is invited to do so. I don't know, you choose your platforms. I know some are more active there, some are more active there, but if LinkedIn is a place where you like to connect, then you can find many of the members already in there as well. And I will share a reminder with this when I'm sharing the replay. And last but not least, another milestone I would like to celebrate is that I launched my very first audiobook / ebook / amazing resource for everyone wanting to start a podcast. And this is actually, this is not a course. I have the course as well for when you're ready to commit, but this is actually just a first step of figuring out if it's something you should consider or if you want to consider it. And you find that at hashtagimpact.com/book, where I'm talking about some hurdles that we all face when we're starting out. Watson, you mentioned voice and getting comfortable with our own voice. And that's a big part of this publication. And it was super meaningful to put this together for you at hashtagimpact.com/book.
That is so great.
I'm so excited about it.
Good.
And the audio version, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like an audio book as well. It's so fun. Is there an audio version of your resilience publication, Watson?
So my first book, there is a audible version, but for the recent book, there's
because
not.
It's the different authors, of course.
It's a collection of essays, and that would be fun to do, but it takes a long time to make an audible version, and they've gotten very, very picky about different things about they made us go back and put in a second of silence on each end of the. I mean,
oh my goodness. See, I cut off all of this and just self-publish. Self-published in a way. I made it very low tech. So it's just available as a playlist on YouTube to make it super simple. And then I didn't have Audible give me any kind of rules. So I could just do it my way.
Yeah. That was But I did think about having all the people that gave essays, if I could just have them read their own. So that's a clever way to. That
would be beautiful. Actually, maybe you could even do that. I'm happy to help with that. That is because then everyone could just read it out in their own phone on their, and you could just put it together as a playlist on YouTube. I can give. Yeah, let's talk after. If you want to look into that, I can give you some.
Well, I'm gonna go to bed after, but I'll circle back around.
Yes. Oh, thank you all so much for joining Hashtag Impact Club Virtual Coffee today. Cheers. And if you enjoyed this, I'm going to check in with you. Then we can do this more often to bring in like a guest expert to kick off a conversation. How did you like that? Can I get a quick thumbs up in front of Watson now? Yeah, everyone loved it. Of course.
Well, it was really so fun for me to kind of get to meet you all and to work a bit with Regina. And fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. Hang tough. What did I tell a friend of mine in Hong Kong? I said, I don't know what the government's going to do, but I can guarantee you the days are going to get longer and it's going to get warmer.
Yeah. And until then, we can listen to #resilience.com. Remember to subscribe to Watson's podcast. I would love for him to report on a steep increase in his download numbers. And now you can put the faces of those downloads on your podcast, because all the ones that will come in now, these are these amazing people. Aren't they amazing?
I'll look at Anchor tomorrow morning and I'll just go.
Yeah.
That'll be so exciting.
thank you all so much for being here today. And I see you at the next #Impact Club virtual coffee break, I hope, next month.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And thanks, Regina. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Regina. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
I'm just going to hang back a bit to say thank you, Watson.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. That day when we recorded was a really huge day. Not just because of that recording, but for another very personal reason. And I will share that reason with you very soon. In the meantime, maybe you want to come join us at the next live recording within #Impact Club and come hang out with us for a virtual coffee and get your voice heard on our channel. That would be so, so wonderful. You can do that at #impact.com/club. And I will also put that link in the show notes so that you can easily find it. And if you have any question at all, just reach out to me. You can find me at Regina at #impact.com. Talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Yeah. What could be better than teamwork with you? Almost nothing.
And these are so great insights. I love that they were all brave to share as well, that they actually unmuted and said what they were feeling and thinking. That takes courage as well, because most of them had not met each other before, right? So.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they got to do something as a team today, they got to be a part of something.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Really good.
So proud of you, Watson.
Well, I tell you, it never would have happened without you.
Yeah. All right, then I let you go to get some sleep, and I talk to you soon.
Yeah, and I'll do the thing tomorrow where for your 5-year leave a comment.